on the line, and so help me Titan. If you ruin this, I will throw you off the tallest peak of the knee with a smile.
Oh, that poor girl is going through something.
Wow. Touche. Did not expect that. Hi, I'm Kitty Monk. I'm here to talk to you about the Owl House, or more specifically, Kikimora. Alright, 2022. New year, new Kitty. If you lurked on my channel, I'm sure you know just how long I've wanted to make a video on her. If we're being honest, likely around the same time I made my Lilith video. And even though I published that video in August, I actually started writing the script for it in July. I should prefix this by saying this is the hardest video I've ever had to write. That's why it took me so long to get around to it. Don't get me wrong, I've had problems writing for tons of characters. Merkimer, the Blight Twins, Sasha, heck, even Queen Moon. Nothing compares to Kikimora. It's taken me about a dozen tries. Why? Well, a combo of writer's block, and well, I didn't know if I could make a video on her at this point, for a reason I'll get to later. So let's get started. We all have our own favorite character types. My favorite is villains, but I love a second group, assistants. I guess relating to villains, lackeys are fun to watch if the writing for them is strong enough. Like villains, I think you can get a lot of mileage out of assistants. Sometimes they're the most loyal person on the team. Other times, they're the most likely to stab you in the back. Sure, sometimes they take a lot of punishment, but that can be pretty funny or awesome, depending on what's needed. With certain assistants, like in Django Unchained, they're really the ones running the show. The villain is just their puppet. Or they might not be calling the shots, but would say, Vizorali, they're the ones who make sure things get done. So they're dangerous in a different way. But for other assistants, they can take a lot of punishment. But because of their proximity, they can get away with a lot more than other characters. Before change your mind, I don't think anybody but Yellow Pearl could get away with calling Pink Diamond silly.
I forgot how silly you can be.
Heck, I'll even watch a show or a movie I have no interest in simply because there's an assistant character. As a history nerd, I think Pocahontas could have been a lot better, outside of that one cover Jonathan Young and Caleb Hyles did. However, I'm sure we can all agree that beyond that, the best part of the movie was Wiggins.
Why do you think those insolent heathens attacked us?
Because we invaded their land and cut down their trees and dug up their earth.
Outside of Tommy Lassel's and The Crown, and Manfred and Starburst's, I haven't met an Itachi I really ever hated, except Kikimora. What did she do that was so heinous as to end up on my chopping block? Well, let's start at the beginning. Kikimora is a member of the Emperor's Coven, the most powerful elite witches on the Boiling Isles. Her role is to be assistant to the Emperor. Well, says she's supposed to be his assistant.
The Emperor's assistant will be your tour guide. Please don't make me regret taking you here.
But she does a range of tasks I don't think a normal assistant would be qualified for. Maybe she's just overconfident. She first appears in Convention, which is coincidentally the first episode to feature Lilith, and by extension, introduce the Emperor's Coven. That episode doesn't count. Sure, I guess Warden Raph is a member of the Emperor's Coven, but in context of that episode, he was just a fancy jailer. And I doubt he's a member of Bellows' inner circle if Kikimora is allowed to berate him. Anyway, after Lilith's humiliating defeat by Ida, my apologies, she returns to her dressing room to get a very mysterious call.
You make it so hard to want to help you, Edelyn.
Somehow, word got back to the Emperor's Coven that Lilith made a fool of herself in public. I guess social media. Regardless, she's getting scolded.
Lilith, I see you let the Owl Lady get the best of your temper. Just remember what Emperor Bellows has promised you.
I will capture her, ma'am. You have my word.
Very good.
Kiki was super different back then. This is the last we see of her for a while, as she doesn't reappear until Agony of a Witch. Therefore, I want to use this opportunity to discuss my initial thoughts. When I first saw Kikimora, I fell in love with her, even if I didn't know her name. Creepy, I know. Even if Kiki barely appeared, she was my favorite side character. The character I wanted to know more about. Her design was amazing, and I had a sneaky feeling that the crew was going to do something special with her. Sure, she covers her mouth, but it's more freedom than the rest of the Coven gets. Weirdly, I thought they were gonna do something with that. Like, she has a big scar on her face or something. I don't think Palisman dashed those hopes, but her little fangs are so cute. As far as we know, she's the only member of the Emperor's Coven to be a demon. I said Warden Ruff doesn't count. Anyway, I foresaw either one of two paths. The first path would be that Kiki is a devoted follower, kind of like Yellow Pearl. Perhaps Bellows' most devout follower. Maybe, given her voice and demeanor, she's his oldest follower. Maybe even his first follower. Since I always like to compare the Emperor's Coven to a cult, I guess she'd be the squeaky bomb of the group. A fanatic, even more so than Lilith. For a second, I thought they were gonna go the Django Unchained route. Think about it. Lilith is arguably the second most important member of the Coven, and yet she still has to call an assistant ma'am.
I will capture her, ma'am.
Look at how scared she seems here. Was she scared because she realizes, oh no, Belos knows what I did? Or, oh no, Kikimora is so mad. There were a lot of ways you could have sliced it. Then we get to Agony of a Witch. On a quiet day, Lily's observing the troops, fresh off a capture of wild witches. Afterwards, she reflects on her own inability to arrest Ida.
I haven't forgotten what you've promised me. I will bring you my sister.
Then why the delay?
Kikimora.
A word of advice? Stop thinking aloud.
Kiki goes on to question why Lilith hasn't brought in the Owl Lady.
And other teams have bound many rogue witches to covens, and yet the Owl Lady still roams free. Are you protecting her?
Just one sec. Kiki ain't wrong. I know Belos is more blunt about it later, but seriously, Lilypad, you're the head of the coven. You've been involved in this game of cat and mouse for how long? And you can't capture Ida simply because you're related to her? Sure, I get it, Lil. But you had so many chances.
You gonna cart me away to the coven now, are you?
Not now, because I want to give you a chance to join on your own.
How dare you try to use love and respect to persuade a loved one to join your side?
Rest assured, Kiki.
There was so much acid in those words. Lilith promises Kiki that today is the day.
Today we capture Ida, once and for all.
Wow, look at her motivation. I'm sure she'll fulfill that promise and— Bummer. Kikimora does appear later in the episode to act as a tour guide to the Exide kids. Nothing really comes of it. It's mostly just a parrot the usual rhetoric. It's still one of my favorite moments of the show, also because it expands on the lore. Granted, there is one funny line.
Ah, make way for Miss Lilith Glawthorn. She's on her way to see the Emperor himself. Let's all wish her luck.
Good luck, Miss Lilith.
Kikimora is the right level of subtle petty I aspire to reach. Now, while I found Kiki to be the most interesting side character, I did have a problem with her. It wasn't a major one, but I guess it's worth mentioning. I thought she was criminally underutilized. In fact, I think the same thing about the entire coven, besides Belos. The only active members prior to Agony of a Witch are Lilith and arguably Steve. He's that uncle you only see at holidays. I guess they didn't really need to do that much with them, but compare the Emperor's Coven to the Homeworld Gems. We didn't physically see the diamonds for much of the show, but we still saw members of their core. Imagine if instead of having a ton of Homeworld Gems coming to Earth, we only had Paragon. Paragon's a cool character, but after a while, wouldn't it get kinda stale? There was so much potential with Kikimora. They imply her and Lilith had an acidic relationship. Why is that? It's because Kiki's jealous of Lilith? Going back to the cold member analogy, does she think Lilith isn't worthy of her spot because she isn't getting results? There's also the question of how did Kikimora get to where she was? Backstabbing? Since her role is so personal, does she know stuff about the coven that not even Lilith does? Like if Belos is really a human or not? Or since season 2 focuses on her issues with Hunter, does she just view anybody who isn't her as a rival? These implications could have made for quite the episode. Maybe Kiki volunteers to go hunt down Ida, and because she has no blood connection to her, she would have no qualms about doing things the hard way. As a result, Lilith would be faced with a dilemma. Do I save my sister and look like an even bigger fool? Or do I let Kikimora capture her, thereby ensuring she'll have all the glory? If I rescue Ida, I'm a traitor to Belos. If I do nothing, Ida joins the Emperor's Coven, but hates me for the rest of her life. Even in the last few episodes, she doesn't really do anything of note. All that happens is she acts as press secretary, and yes, she looks super adorable. And then she acts like a major hypocrite.
You let the human escape, and you drew her a map?
Free them now!
Then we get to season 2, or more specifically, Hunting for Palisman. I like this episode.
How do I land this thing?
Oh, you just pull that cord above your head.
Oh, thank you. Yeah?
Hi.
I love how it expanded on Hunter, revealed more about Belos' curse, but I have one major problem with the episode, and that's Kikimora, and the path the writers decided to take with her. It was part of why I could never write a script for her, since outside of one problem, I really love the episode. With Lilith gone, it seems as though Kiki has risen in rank, meaning her screen time has increased. You first see her in the opening, giving a speech to the coven leaders, all the usual jazz. Then something happens. So Belos has another outburst? I mean, that's what he calls it. And Hunter takes him away so he can air it out in private. This includes eating another palisman. Ew.
I need more.
That was the last from our reserves. The Palistrom wood has been over-harvested.
Hunter tries to recommend an alternate method, but Belos isn't having it, so he gaslights Hunter into picking up a takeout order.
Please,
Be careful. Our family is gone because of wild magic. I can't let the same happen to you.
Unknown to them, there's somebody eavesdropping.
Frighten or Palisman. I can depend on you, right?
Don't worry, I'll get you in a second. Hunter tries to bring the stolen Palisman back to Belos, capturing Luce in the process, and then his airship crashes. Wanna know who the culprit is? A giant dragon monster made out of fingers and hands. Yes, that's not an exaggeration. Seriously, what were the writers on? I mean, it does look pretty awesome. I can only wonder who this steed belongs to.
Excellent work, my pet. Now, find the rest of him and have yourself a nice little snack.
Okay, this is where my dislike for Kiki began. I know I have gotten flack for using TV tropes definitions, but I'm afraid I'm going to have to do it one more time. In cartoons, there's often characters you're meant to hate. Maybe they cut you off in traffic. Maybe they burn kids at the stake. Maybe they scan 15 items in the 10 items or less aisle. Maybe they don't wash their hands. Whatever it is, their purpose is to be hated. It's such a documented phenomenon that it has a name, hate sinks. The purpose of a hate sink is to, well, be hated. Go figure. That way, we can find another character, usually the main cast, better by comparison.
Opulent, radiant, glimmering. My diamond will suffice, or we'll never get through this.
For example, in SU, the Diamonds were intergalactic dictators who killed tons of organic life and any gem who didn't fit the mold. And the show always made a big deal about the fact that while most homeworld gems were just doing their jobs, many were still miserable. Notice how when it came time for the Diamonds' turn to be sympathetic, we suddenly got a slew of hateful homeworld gems. Zircon, Holly Blue Agate, Aquamarine, arguably Eyeball. That way, we know who to root for. Honestly, I do dislike most hate sinks for reasons beyond the writers want me to. I usually find characters like them to be a cop-out, since there's times they can come out of nowhere. You couldn't guess, the show found its footing with Kikimora by making her a hate sink.
Such a horrible accident, probably caused by the incompetent pilot.
Yeah, I don't like that. Let me explain. So, Kiki wants to one-up Hunter and kill him. You heard me correctly. Not demotion, not suspension with pay, but full-on murder. And then to avoid any responsibilities, she's gonna make it look like an accident by making it super public and doing it in such a way that I'm sure Belos would smell her BS from a mile away. The Golden Guard is the most important member of the Coven next to Belos. He's their newest mascot. Wouldn't his demise prompt an investigation? What was Kiki gonna do then? Not to mention, she was listening in on Belos and Hunter. Likely their whole conversation. She should have heard this.
Uncle, our family is gone.
Maybe the writers were trying to imply Kikimora only heard part of what they said, but if they wanted that, show her walking up to the door after Belos says this. That way, it sounds like Belos is trying to get rid of her, and her wanting to get rid of Hunter would make more sense. I still don't understand to her why this plan would work. I want Belos to accept me as his number one. To accomplish my goal, I'm gonna kill his ward, his next of kin, and the current face of this coven. He's gonna be so happy, he's gonna be crying tears of cotton candy rainbows. If I did make this video last fall, I would have made a 10-minute video rant on that alone, but I held my tongue. At the time, I felt like I was overreacting. I guess in hindsight, I do understand to a very small extent why she didn't like Hunter. I'm one of those people who hates when somebody does my job for me, unless I ask for help. And even then, I'm one of those people who hates asking for help. I used to work in customer service, so I felt this way a lot. Kikimora might be doing more than what's expected of her, but effectively, she's still his personal attendant. Of course, she's likely witnessed these outbursts before.
No, stay here. I can handle this alone.
If I worked with a kid like Hunter, I would likely feel similar, albeit I probably wouldn't want their murder. To Kiki, perhaps this was at first less out of jealousy, and more out of a sense of, ugh, who does this kid think he is? Keep in mind what Lilith said.
He always got special treatment because he was the genius teen prodigy. But he's really just a brat.
Still, our shared empathy isn't enough for me. Going back to the episode, Luz and Hunter are able to steal back the Palisman, and Kiki returns home empty-handed, but not before getting knocked unconscious.
This is treason against a Coven official!
Talk about the pot calling the kettle black. On his way out from another emotionally abusive lecture, Hunter runs into Kiki.
You're alive? I mean, I heard about the crash in Letissa.
Looks like you had a rough night, though.
A problem with my other drops was I didn't really understand why I disliked the character. It was hard to articulate that feeling. And obviously, just disliking somebody isn't enough of a reason to make a video. For a few months, I just didn't like her, and I couldn't explain it. Besides, I think one of my problems as a critic is I tend to nitpick. I got this complaint all the time back when I reviewed Disenchantment, and it's something I've been trying to work on. To try and understand my feelings, I took a look at other cartoon assistants who weren't portrayed so favorably. I think going back to SU, the character that's Kikimora done right is Yellow Pearl. Sure, she harbors many negative traits and practically borders on a hate sink, but as petty as she can get, she still does her job, and she does it well. It keeps her entertaining, and somebody you love to hate. I think the show easily could have made Kikimora like Yellow Pearl. I mean, she seemed to work like that in her next episode.
Leaving so soon?
This scene right here was her best moment, hands down. It was the right level of evil and horror, and her dialogue was brief, but gets the point across.
Guess I can look forward to my own petrification, huh?
No. It'd be too much of a hassle to find a replacement.
Unlike a lot of people, this scene didn't make me outright hate her, mostly because I already did. Yet I didn't hate her any more than I did before. Sure, she's doing something villainous, but she's the villain, and she's just doing what Bellows asked of her. I can't really hate somebody for doing their job, so long as they aren't being obnoxious about it. Besides, Rain was gonna be apprehended anyways. Better be quick and nightmare-inducing.
But until then, night-night.
This most recent success seems to have elevated her in Bellows' eyes. As punishment for his actions, or maybe to get him more motivated, Bellows sidelines Hunter in favor of Kikimora. The next item on the itinerary is the all-important Titan's Blood at the knee. If Bellows gets it, he can make a working portal key and travel between the Earth and the Boiling Isles. Somehow, Kiki has developed an insanity problem, thinking that like the ghost of Banquo, Hunter is out to get her.
This could be my last chance to show Bellows what I can do, and I just know that brat Golden Guard will try to spoil it.
Even her subordinates are getting sick of it.
She's getting so paranoid.
To some extent, she's right.
Ma'am, is everything all right?
I just thought I heard an annoying voice.
To another extent, it's kind of pathetic.
Why are we stopping? Is it the Golden Guard?
This is a dangerous area. We need to move carefully.
Careful takes too long.
Look, I always say the Owl House is rushed, and I know the crew only has so much time to work with it. Just Kiki's insanity really felt like it came out of nowhere, except for this one line.
Well, now I can get my revenge!
Ma'am, what about the Titan Blood?
Oh yes, I'll get that too.
Maybe there was a time skip where Hunter did something to her off screen, but he one-upped her once. I can't understand if he did it twice, maybe even 3 times, but it was literally one episode, and Kiki caused the problem. Hunter was defending himself. That's an insane amount of mental gymnastics. That's why I think Kiki needed a little more screen time prior to Agony of a Witch. Her behavior would have made a little more sense. In the end, she likely ends up with another concussion. About why she went insane. After this episode, I do wonder what direction the show will go with her. However, I don't subscribe to the theory that she'll overthrow Bellows, or try to. At the end of the day, all of her actions are to please him. She's come way too far to give up now, and I doubt she could take him on her own. I also don't think she's gonna join the good guys, especially with how she's behaved. I think it's gonna be more of a slow burn. And so far, that's Kikimora, one of the most contentious characters in the show, and my former favorite side character. And now, I can finally say I made a video for her. So, 2022, I hope this year is as great as last year. Really hope I didn't jinx myself.